Hi, here from a Mayor's Report. Tuesday, March 15th, standing in the Dublin Library's community room this weekend. This room was an Irish cottage, and this entire area was filled with St. Patrick's festivities. It was just an outstanding weekend here in the city of Dublin. Always my favorite weekend, always has been growing up here, and now as mayor, still one of my favorite weekends and the favorite weekends of many Dublin residents. I want to thank several groups for their contributions to the weekend. It started out Friday night with the Dublin Sister Cities Green and White Gala, and the Sister City Association always has played a big role. They host delegations every year from our sister city of Bray, Ireland. This year they hosted the mayor of Bray, Ireland, David Grant, who literally flew in Friday afternoon and left on Monday just to be here with us in Dublin, California. So I want to thank him. He enjoyed his time here and talked about what a great job all the events were and how wonderful the people were that he met here in Dublin. So after the Sister City Green and White Gala Friday night, I want to thank the firefighters for hosting the pancake breakfast Saturday morning. The green pancakes are always a hit for people of all ages. I want to thank the Dublin Lions Club for the job they did hosting the St. Patrick's Parade. I think it was a record crowd this year in terms of attendees and participants. And I also want to thank our city staff and all of the volunteers for the tremendous job they did with the festival, which took place here on all day Saturday and Sunday. And then one of the things that right here in this library community room, the Dublin Historical Preservation Association playing a great role with the Irish Cottage. I also want to acknowledge the Knights of Columbus for hosting the all-you-can-eat corned beef and cabbage dinner Saturday night. And we had nearly 2,000 participants in the Shamrock Run on Sunday. So again, just this entire civic area filled with pride and always a great thing. And I'm looking forward. The week continues, finally culminates on Thursday when the Chamber hosts their annual corned beef luncheon. And then I'm going to a corned beef dinner later on after that. So I don't eat corned beef all year, but then in about a 10-day period I have it seems, around the clock, but always something to look forward to. Last night the City Council had a strategic, we had our budget study session, and we also had our session when we looked at our initiatives for the upcoming year. We're not calling them goals and objectives anymore, they're initiatives. I want to give a brief update on the budget. I think if there was a message, we talked about it both at the staff and the council, the message is tempered optimism, and I think that was in the staff report. That was one of the things that the council also talked about. There's good news and bad news. First, actually, let me start, I guess, with the bad news. The budget is still, when you look at a per capita basis, what we're spending per resident is down from 06. So, in other words, our city has grown, our revenues have not grown to keep up with that. So it's about a $90 difference per resident per capita in spending of what we have. If you look at our sales tax and property tax, our property tax levels are still flat. Those have not gone up. Our sales tax revenues have still are right around 2005, 2006 levels. So those are some of the issues for concern. Another issue for concern is the fact that there's still a structural gap in terms of the ongoing expenses and revenues, in terms of the projection of right around $1 million to $1.5 million. So those are issues, I think, of concern. But now the good news and the reason for the optimism. First, sales tax numbers are up from last year. Definitely we've seen an increase. We actually made it a mid-year adjustment to the 10-11 budget because of the fact that sales tax revenue is up. It's projected to go up even more next year because we have a number of retailers coming online, plus auto sales have gone real well. Our transit occupancy tax has gone up. Our revenue from that, from hotels, so we're starting to see more people come here. I think that's helped certainly with the Holiday Inn remodel, and a number of our other hotels are doing real well. The other part of the budget that's up significantly is the amount of permits, the amount of activity that we're seeing in terms of developers pulling commercial permits, residential permits. That revenue to the city is going up, and just all the way across the board we are seeing some revenue increases, which is helping to balance the budget. The other thing is, as I've mentioned before, we've balanced the budget the last couple of years without having to dip into the economic uncertainty reserve. That reserve remains intact at $6 million, but every year we would still balance the budget, projecting that we might have a $3 to $4 million shortfall. That gap now is about $1 million to $1.5 million. So Even though we have always been able to balance the budget with one-time revenues and other sources, now that gap that was always at $3.5 to $4 million has been narrowed significantly. So there's still a little bit of a gap that we have to continue to think about long term, but in terms of the long-term projections of what we've done as a city, we are definitely making up for that. The other bit of good news is last year, as you recall, we had to make a number of cuts. One of the most significant cuts right here where I'm standing at the Dublin Library, where we had to do some significant service reductions. We're not anticipating at this time having to make any of those types of service reductions, whether it's the senior center, the library, public safety, staffing, some of the things that you heard about last year that were necessary to balance the budget. We're not looking to have to do that. We're not in a position where we can bring back a whole lot of things. We're still, again, tempered optimism, but tempered being the word. We need to be cautious, we need to be prudent, but the good news is we're not looking at making any cuts, and in fact, in some instances, we are looking to roll back or to bring back some of those services. One of those, like at the senior center, even though it's a small thing, one of the very popular programs that we cut last year were the senior trips for the senior citizens, where they got to go on trips and we paid for that as a service. That's one of the things that we're bringing back that we cut a year ago. We're also being strategic about the things that we're bringing back, however, particularly within economic development, which we've made as a top priority as our city. So some of the things that we're doing in terms of increased investments are things like increased marketing for the city, in terms of our ways of attracting business here, an economic development strategy, looking to bring in some resources that relates to city communications, environment, economic development. Those are the priorities that have been identified as the council, and we'll continue to focus some of our resources there. We also looked at the initiative project, and as I've talked about before, we're not doing goals and objectives where everything's a high goal. So we've kind of focused a little bit more, and now we have what we call strategic goals and operational goals. So the strategic goals are those that are the top priority that align to the strategic plan, and then we have some operational goals that are still things that we would like to see get done as a city. So we had a good, healthy discussion on that. Most of the strategic goals centered around economic and community development, but also looking at the parks and we're excited about the opening of the Heritage Park this upcoming year, looking for that taking place in early summer. One of the things that we want to look at is I'm excited from a capital improvement standpoint. Even though it's a little bit limited what we're going to do with our capital budget, we're finally going to have some movement in 11-12 on Emerald Glen. We're going to take a look at maybe advancing another portion of Fallon Sports Park, or at least figuring out what the cost considerations are. So I'm really excited when I look from a park standpoint, both the historic park on the western side, and then looking at some advancements, whether it's Fallon Sports Park or the Aquatic Center, at least getting the construction documents done for Emerald Glen. So those are some of the things that we're getting done on the capital side. And again, I'll have more to report as the budget process moves forward. But that's my report for today, March 14th. And when I report next week, I'll give an update on the council meetings in the month of March, as well as many of the other exciting things happening in the city of Dublin. Have a great week.